Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Ceipal's webinar series, Winning Strategies for Staffing Businesses at Critical Times. Today's webinar, How to Optimize Your Message and Processes for Sustainable Growth, will be presented by Accelerate Media's Director of Digital Projects, Liz Hopkins, and President of Hemley Marketing, Larry Hemley. Following the presentation, we will have a brief product demo by Ceipal CTO, Amar Chadiparella. Before we launch into today's webinar, there are just a few housekeeping items to cover. First, each webinar will be recorded and available on demand through Ceipal's website. A follow-up email will be sent to all registrants with the webinar recording, presentation, and any other relevant material. Second, we will have a Q&A session following the presentation and product demo. All participants have entered this webinar muted, so please enter your questions in the chat box below, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. Thirdly, after the webinar, we will be releasing a brief survey on COVID-19's impact on the staffing industry. Your insight would be greatly appreciated, and we encourage you to complete the survey today. All participants are automatically entered into a raffle to win an Apple iPad as a way of saying thank you. And finally, we just have a few polling questions we want to launch before we start today's content. So I'll run these questions now. Please just take a couple seconds to respond, and then we'll get started. So our first question is, when do you believe your business will fully recover from the COVID-19 disruption? So I'll just give everyone a couple seconds to vote. Just tell us what you think. Okay, wonderful. So it looks like 55% of us thought that we would fully recover within 6 months, and the remaining percent were pretty evenly split between a full year and 3 months. So that's great. Then we're just going to launch our second question, which is, which of the below areas of your business has been most affected due to this pandemic? So again, same thing. I'll give you guys a couple seconds. Just let us know what you think. Okay, great. So for this question, almost 80% of us thought that lack of requirements and jobs from clients was the biggest affector, and project terminations being the second largest. Okay, wonderful. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce our presenters for today. Our first presenter is Larry Hemley. As president of Hemley Marketing, Larry Hemley focuses on driving growth for small to mid-market staffing firms. In the past, he has worked with some of the nation's leading staffing firms, developing ROI-generating marketing assets. In 2012, he founded Hemley Marketing, a marketing firm dedicated to producing tangible results for staffing firms today. His co-presenter, Liz Hopkins, has over 15 years' experience in managing the creation of digital strategy and content for marketing initiatives. In the past, her efforts have produced award-winning results in a wide variety of industries, such as finance, science, retail, and technology. So at Ceipal, it's our pleasure and our privilege to hear from two such marketing experts. And with that, Liz and Larry, I will now pass it off to you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
So today we're really looking forward. Liz and I have been working together to figure out exactly how we wanted to share information with you. And I think right now the most important thing we wanted to share with you right off the bat was around tonality. So when we talk about tonality, it's a concept that has gone in marketing for many, many years, dating back into the 20s, but at the same rate, it's never been more relevant than today. If you can take us to the next slide. So when we talk about the different things we're going to talk about today, before we go into this, let me just go through the agenda, which is that we're going to cover tonality, differentiation, core messaging, and brand, the channels in which you would use to market, web properties, return on investment, and optimizing your communication. So without further ado, when we talk about tonality, what we're talking about is showing the sensitivity and perception in unknown times. And the reason we bring this up is that many of the questions that we've been getting around how do we go to market, how do we sell right now, how do we recruit right now when the world is in this crisis. And the fact is that hiring is going on still, people are still working. And what we do have to remember though is that your messaging has to reflect that you understand that it's not business as usual. So when we talk about tonality, the term that I use most commonly is tone deafness. If you are deaf to what's going on in the world and you portray that in your messaging, then you're asking for people to very quickly assess that you don't seem to understand what's going on right now. Liz, do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. So in practicing what we preach, we want to talk about what's going on in the world today, but tie it back to how do you message and differentiate your brand and your offering? And the beauty of a really sound messaging strategy is it allows you to be adaptive. So if you are in a crisis situation like we are right now, it can flex to that. If you have an opportunity or a period of growth, it can flex to that. So when you have a well-founded, authentic message, you can personalize your communication not only to the individual or groups that you're speaking to, but also around what's going on in the world and the market around you. And that's why the tone deafness message is so important to keep in mind. And the core strategy of messaging is such an important undertaking so you can flex in unknown times like this. So to that
Absolutely.
end, we want to think about two things when we're looking at messaging and brand. One of them clearly is, what is your niche? What sectors do you excel in? What industries and technologies do you specialize in? If you can take that first step and really clearly define your target customer, your target audience and target business, and what's different about how you serve them, that can make you much more set up for success in terms of messaging and going to market. You can't be everything to everyone. I mean, we want to pursue business in as many markets as possible, but there's going to be places where you shine, and the messaging strategy helps you focus that attention appropriately and allows you to identify to yourself, to your staff, to your customers, to prospective candidates, how you're different, what your offering does that your competitors don't, and where you can win. And that's critically important in times like today, when there may be things you're doing in response to the crisis that differentiate you, even in their simplicity. And I know, Larry, you have an awesome example of that and how that's working in staffing and recruiting today.
Well, and I think I mean, thanks for that, Liz. And I think that what we're seeing right now is that first of all, many firms have put into place different things around their onboarding, whether it be, I actually heard a story of one client that is doing a clean room where candidates slash consultants can come in and pick up the various materials and feel safe. As well as more online onboarding and things of that nature, as well as some firms are giving out Zoom and GoToMeeting accounts so that consultants can feel empowered to be able to uh, uh, get with their clients as quickly as possible and keep the communication going. But what's interesting, and the reason I bring this up, is because of the fact that most of them never thought about how that markets to the audience. They have been silent, like many of the different firms have been at their marketing to clients, because how do you put together the message of, we want to do business with you in times like now? And the fact is that when we talk about that tone deafness, we're not just talking about the fact that mentioning that that we understand the world has changed and it's not business as usual. It is also that you bring in what you're doing about it, and that plays into your differentiation the way we're talking about it, because there are so many different things that firms are doing that truly are marketing opportunities that are not being leveraged.
Absolutely, Larry. Great point. Sheila, if we go to our core messaging slide here, really the core is telling the foundational story consistently and effectively. So if we have looked into differentiation, we look at our niche, how we are going to plan to excel in that niche. then you're ready to look at that core messaging strategy and in turn really how that extends to your brand presence. Clearly there's process and people and technology things that you are doing that are different, that are better, that stand out against your competitors. And all of that should be grounded in a strategic plan that is focused on your target audience and the results that you're looking to create with them. So you're not always just telling the story about who you are and what you do and how you do it. Those are important things. But the tip of the spear really is what is important to that target audience? What problems are you and your efforts solving for them? And what keeps them up at night? I love that question because you're talking about partnering with them, consulting with them to solve a problem, be that a staffing problem, be that better defining a candidate requirement, whatever that is, you want to be that trusted consultant to them, and really having a core message that's grounded in that assists you in being that trusted partner. And really, I like to focus when I'm looking at core messaging on what we like to call the buyer's journey. So you have your sales funnel, right? And when folks enter the top of it, they're information gathering, they're researching, they're looking at a variety of providers, they're in a discovery phase. So you want to have messaging to them there that helps them understand and discover who you are and what you can provide to them. And then as they pass through that funnel, they can be educated more on what makes you stand out, your industry insights, the thought leadership and credibility that you bring to their challenges, and then coming to a place of trust that brings them to the buying stage. When they make the decision to buy, they make the decision to, if they're a candidate, to join your pool, to partner with you, to take a position. Having a strong, consistent strategic message works through that entire funnel, and it also brings authenticity to the experience so that you are showing what you can give to them, you can showing them the value you bring, and you can do that in a way that's consistent across your entire team, not just your account manager, not just your recruiter, but your sales team, your marketing team. They're all communicating consistently around who you are and how you're different and better from your competition. And doing that in a really structured way is what creates success and consistency on an ongoing basis. And I know, Larry, you do this every day with your staffing clients. So I know you bring a lot of great insights to that same process as well.
Well, and I think the key that you mentioned is the leadership and the influential people in a given firm getting into the same room and really sitting down and tearing apart what it is that they bring to the table. A lot of our clients will tell us that, well, we're very similar to this firm and we do things the same way as that firm. But when you start digging into it, you realize that no, they're quite different. Part of what you mentioned is the authenticity of the message. And nowadays, everything is about authenticity. So portraying yourself as something that you're not is going to be discovered quickly and probably not go over too well. But the other part is that when you build that messaging, and Liz alluded to this, but it's really sharing it with the whole team. We see a number of places where, first of all, we ask the question of, do you have differentiation in core messaging? The person says yes, and we say, can I see it? And it's something that's in someone's head. It has not been shared in a public fashion. And the reality is, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. And I know that referring to paper in a digital age is kind of funny, but at the same rate, it has to be absorbable by the rest of the team. And so it's critical to the point that Liz made, which is that in order for the team to all be on the same page and saying the same differentiation points, and to be hitting all the right core messaging, the fact is they have to know what it is. So it's not only imperative that you figure out what it is, but you also have to share it with the whole team.
Absolutely. And once they have that tool in their toolkit, that set of language, that go-to-market voice, that's when you begin to think about the tactical execution of rolling out that message and really honing your communication and really the distribution path through which you deliver that message. So that brings us to our next slide, where we talk about those distribution channels. And once you've done the work to internalize your authentic brand message, you've really done just the beginning stage of the process, because it doesn't matter how good your message is if you are not delivering it to the right people at the right moment as authentically and consistently and holistically as possible. So your next critical step is defining your deployment strategy. How are you delivering that message to your defined target audiences? How does that bring your credibility and your thoughts on the industry and your thought leadership to them in the moment when they are in need of information or when they're facing a challenge, being there for them in the moment of need? How do you choose those channels, and really how do you manage them in a way that, again, is authentic, but is also reasonable and efficient for your business? It would be wonderful if there was time to send an individual email to every candidate in your pool, or to reach out individually to every customer on your prospect list. But we know that time is money. And if there are ways to automate that process, but do it in an authentic way, you've bought time, you've bought relationships, you've bought that conduit to then deliver that message to the right people. So clearly, how you select those channels is critical, and how you manage them is even more so. So we do have a couple examples that we want to talk about in terms of how to implement what can be very traditional conduits of communication, but do that in a way that is authentic, that is not tone deaf, and that is easy to manage. So we'll talk about a few examples here, and Larry's got some great insights as far as how this works specifically in the staffing and recruiting space. We can talk through how to bring that message and authenticity to each of these.
Well, and one of the things that we want to take a step back on real quick is just talking about, when we talk about the channels, we are talking about everything from advertising to public relations to email campaigns to phone campaigns to text. I could keep going on, but I won't. The fact is that in marketing, we refer to, like, when clients say we want social media, okay, well, that's one channel. What else are we going to do? And so for looking at this right now, I would tell you that almost all of the channels are still functioning very, very well. Some of them have increased in their both usefulness as well as user acceptance. But the other part is there's at least one that's not working right now, which is direct mail. A lot of us have note cards that we send out to clients, or that we send letters or direct mail packages. Those are not going to work right now. But that's probably the only one that we're seeing not work. LinkedIn is seeing the usage rates over double as quickly as I believe that was March 15th. And the other part is now texting is even more important. So being sure that your message is on point and that it's directed in the same fashions that we talked about with tone deafness. So one of the texts that we worked on with one of our recruiters was the fact that, I hope you're holding up well. My name is Susan, and I saw that you're working for Bank of America as a Java developer. I was very impressed with what you have noted on your resume around your experience with Angular and React. I have a position in Denver and think you could potentially fit well. I know times are crazy, but wanted to see if you're interested in discussing this role. The fact is it took a little bit more effort to pull out some facts out of the resume, as well as to make sure and mention that you understand what's going on in the world. But when you look at these opportunities, the success rates go crazy through the roof. And most of the recruiters that we talk to are preparing these things with us so that they have real examples to be able to use and understand how to get to market quickly. On the social side of things, the fact is whether you're doing some kind of campaign around giving. This particular example is one where we did a giving campaign to drive followers. It's one of those that right now we're in a world that wants to see what everyone else is doing to positively impact what's going on. So using your social in ways like this are definitely, possibilities for drawing more candidates and be able to come out on the other side with more clients.
Absolutely. And that core messaging strategy, even though we have these very tactical communications like the SMS example, we have more of these community mindedness type examples with social. A core messaging strategy will set you up to deliver a consistent voice, regardless of the channel, regardless of the tactic that you're using, and will keep you grounded in that foundational message. And that extends to obviously one of the most standard and common methods of communication, that being email marketing, which is some examples on our next slide, Sheila.
And well, let me just chime in here for a sec, which is that, and Liz, you and I talked about this yesterday as we were reflecting, the overly designed emails, highly graphic, we'll call it the pretty pictures of the world, they are not working as well. We are seeing the rates drop down into the 1%, 2%, 3% on open rate because of the fact that they are self-identifying themselves as marketing. And people are trying to avoid stuff like that. Are you seeing the same kind of thing, Liz?
Absolutely. People are looking for the human connection, not a highly packaged, designed aesthetic. They want to know that there's a person on the other end.
And so one of the things we've done to that end is worked with different email programs that allow for variable data. We are still writing marketing campaigns that are designed for their effectiveness, but we're personalizing them heavily. So if you notice in this example, it's not just that we're putting in first name and your name, we're putting in who some of the competitors of theirs are that we want to be able to draw their attention to. So company 1, 2, and 3 or A, B, and C. The other part is that in the spreadsheet for the salespeople, we're asking them to put in what is the benefit that they're touting so that we can put in the benefit of what we're doing in the variable data so that not everything has to be written individually, but yet still feels individual.
Mm-hmm. And that's those automation steps that you can take that are going to be more efficient, that can be driven by some of your core tools while still maintaining that humanity, that person-to-person communication, but leveraging data and some intelligence in the platform to be able to make that quicker, easier, better, faster.
So with that, we were looking at, mass emails, and we just wanted to be able to share some information with everyone on the call, which is that very simply is right now, what we're seeing is anything above 10% open rates is considered good. I know that sounds low, but the fact is that 10% right now is where the numbers are. And so when you're in the 14, 15%, you're doing an excellent job. And when you're below 8%, you're not doing an excellent job. But remember that you've got to be looking at not just the content you're writing, but also the subject lines that you're writing, because the subject line is what gets someone into an email. So that affects your open rate. The click-through rate is from what you see in the email. And the fact is click-through rates, unfortunately, are low, partly because people aren't building strong calls to action. They're not using the core messaging or differentiation that we talked about. And so they're seeing numbers that are sub 2%. Right now, anything over 2% is considered fantastic. So what you might be asking yourself is, well, with 10% open rates and 2% click-throughs, why would I even bother? And the fact is that what Liz and I were joking around about yesterday is the word mass in mass emails is the operative word. If you're doing this to 10 people, it's probably not going to work as well as if you did it to 1,000.
The mass, I like to use we talked about the Wayne Gretzky statement, you make none of the shots you don't take. So we're looking at the law of averages here, right? The more communication you send out, the more likely you are to get in front of the right people and get a conversion. So all the more reason for why you want to have some automations built into your communication process so you can get that volume up, you can get the mass part of mass communication and mass email, and do it in a way that doesn't feel automated. And Larry's example of using more variable data to drive that is a great one, because it feels like it was custom written for the recipient without you having to take the time and effort to do that for a list of 10,000 recipients or however many there are in your mass.
Well, and the mass communication extends itself to LinkedIn with its advertising, or the communication that you're doing through LinkedIn InMails, or if you're using Sales Navigator or LinkedIn Recruiter. The fact is, these communications, they're critical right now to understand what we're doing. One of my clients actually said to me one day, well, I don't understand why we need to come to you for that. Our recruiters can write that. And I said, you're absolutely right. And how well do those job descriptions look after the recruiters get done with them? And I wish we had a live audience right now, because we would have gotten at least one chuckle, which
yes,
is that
for sure.
recruiters and job descriptions, salespeople and job descriptions, unfortunately, it's our best first impression. And the worst part is that it's not our best. And so, we try and work with all of our clients around not just the messaging and core differentiation, but to understand how to implement that across job descriptions, how to implement it across client and candidate outreach. There's so many different applications for what we're doing here, and it's not limited to email or LinkedIn. It's certainly your imagination of the different channels that are available to you and using them to the best of their ability.
Absolutely. And doing the work to define your niche and your audience is what's going to help educate you on where the best place to deliver that message is. It always ties back to that core strategy. In your industry, there may be industry publications, groups, any number of ways to target the right people. And that original definition of audience and niche is going to help you do that in an organized way.
Which I think kind of brings us to some of what we were talking about with website and recruitment.
Absolutely.
Sheila, can you bring us to the next slide? So we like to talk about the web properties as driving candidate engagement and acquisition. And the fact is that your website is probably the #1 place where both candidates and clients are going to come back to check up on you. And so using your messaging, your differentiation across your site, absolutely imperative. Showing that you've updated it for current times is certainly another point. But a lot of people are forgetting about, how to use their website for those jobs, as well as what they can do on their website to enhance the experience. I think we pulled up an example, didn't we?
Yes, we've got one on the next screen.
Why don't you give us a talk on this one?
Sure thing. So clearly in digital marketing, the website is the crown jewel. It's the centerpiece of the strategy. We try and drive the holistic message from here outward and inward. One of the most critical places to do that, obviously, is on your career portal, and creating a candidate experience that is authentic, grounded in that brand, still going back to that strategic drumbeat, but also that is engaging, that is easy to use, and that for you and your automation and efficiency ties into a central location that allows you to manage it easily, allows you to give information to people in a way that feels genuine, authentic, and personalized, but again, can be automated by really smart functions and features. So you have an experience that is really good for the candidate. You're creating that recruitment brand that is so important in bringing in good people. And you're also having a tool set that is easily managed, engaging, and easy for you to take care of on a regular basis without a lot of effort. So that can be done many, many ways. Bringing in your job post data through integrations, through an API, something that you have a one-stop dashboard to manage those listings in an automated way is critical. And another great thing that the world of big data can help us with is with things like an AI chatbot. So you almost have a concierge that can support your candidate and your user experience in a way that can be personalized, that can be customized with a talk track and a script that can be grounded in your message, but driven under the hood with really strong, smart, developed technology solutions to really create an experience that is fast and effective for you as the administrator and very authentic for the user at the same time.
Well, and to your point real quick is several of the ATSs ask clients to put an iframe on their website. And for those of you that don't know what an iframe is, think of it as a window that's been added to your website where what you see through the website is someone else's website. So to give you an idea, for some of the ATSs, they ask everyone to use an iframe to put the job search and apply process in. And the problem with that is there's absolutely no SEO value. So your search engine optimization is getting hurt by one of your greatest commodities to help drive your search engine, which is the jobs, because the jobs are data loaded. They are keyword oriented, and they will help you come up in the rankings. Google's Search Console has gone a long way to help us all get a greater visibility into what's going on our websites. But if you're not going through the API for your career job, for your career search and apply, then the likelihood is you're using an iframe. And if you're using an iframe, you're actually not helping yourself at all on search engine optimization. So we definitely encourage our clients to work with the API. It is not a heavy lifting project. It does require a developer, but it is not something that is unreachable. And then the chat bots, it's just amazing how many people we have implemented those with that said, I don't think human beings want to talk to a chat bot, but then in the first week get 50 different inquiries through the chat bot and are shocked when one of them is a client. So it is pretty amazing what some of these tools are doing, and definitely recommend looking into all of this for the experience that each user should have.
Absolutely. And that helps us transition really to the end game of all of this. We like to talk about ROI, return on investment. How can you see the fruits that your efforts have borne? How can you see what return you've gotten on the financial investment, on the investment of time and training of people? How do you bring everything together for visibility, obviously, for the ability to measure And then that end game success of increasing customer inquiries, of increasing successful placements, of increasing better candidate pools. How do you create an environment that sets you up for the best ROI? And all of that works into your decision making around the tools that you use to drive these efforts. And Larry, I know you're the ROI guy on this, and intimately how you do that in the staffing and recruiting industry to the best way possible.
Well, we kind of start off with a simple concept, which is inspect what you expect. I believe it's an old Carnegie reference. And the fact is, if you're trying to create an expectation, then you have to create a way to inspect it. And so it's a very simple concept, which is if we want to know how many candidates have come in through the website, we need to be able to see that. If we want to see how many candidates came from a campaign that we did, we need to be able to see that. If we're doing a marketing campaign to clients, we need to be able to track the progress of each one of these through the ATS or CRM or whatever ROI tools we're using. But the fact is that we actually went as far to say that our tagline is brand matters, but not without ROI. And so while brand matters, if you're not getting any return on investment, it's really hard to keep doing it. And so we just believe that it's essential that right from the bat, with any campaign that we're doing of any kind, to figure out how we're going to be doing tracking and measurement.
We have one question. Does Ceipal provide any pre-populated templates or suggestion templates for high response emails? So when we get the software, do we get pre-formulated communications that recruiters can use from day one?
Yes. So we work with the customers to build those templates. So we do have some standard templates. On top of that, we build customized templates for them based on what they wanted to do, meaning what they wanted to accomplish. So yes, we do have some custom templates, and we also work with the customers too.
And is that all part of the onboarding process?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. The next question is for Larry and Liz. And the question is, which marketing vehicle do you consider most effective to increase brand awareness? So do you think email marketing, social media, landing pages? So what's the most effective channel for branding?
Liz, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. So I like to look at effectiveness from two perspectives. Number one, can you do it efficiently from a time perspective? And number two, can you keep the budget down? So I would say using that standard, I think putting thought leadership and industry insights out into the marketplace, either via social or trade organizations where your target audience is already engaging, can be highly effective. You come across as a trusted, credible partner. You are not just talking about your brand, but you're sharing valuable insights with them. I've seen that be very, very successful with relatively low investment from a financial perspective. So that would be my recommendation.
And I think I would add to that, which is that very simply is that social is absolutely a place where you can establish your brand very quickly. But the other part is that regular email campaigns supporting those messages reinforce that. And, together, email and social, I would say, definitely bring huge value real quickly from the brand perspective.
Okay, wonderful. So the next question is just in general, but we're hoping that you can describe how Ceipal specifically and other recruiting ATSs can help us reach out to more prospects specifically. So tapping into markets or clients that we haven't yet accessed. So what are some ways that the software can help us do that?
Sheila, would you mind repeating that question one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So the question is that how can Ceipal and ATSs specifically help us reach out to more prospects? So clients that we haven't yet accessed in different maybe industries or fields So how does the ATS and Ceipal specifically help us through that process?
Okay. So with the integrations that we have done, so as Ceipal is a platform, so we help the customers to capture all the information. And so we have enabled the integrations to different platforms. Just for an example, so we have an integration with Discover.org, so which is being used by a lot of customers as a lead gen platform. So we provide a platform for our customers to capture all those leads from the Discover.org into Ceipal. And then with the email integration that we have done, so we let our customers to send an email to all of them, all the leads or all the customers, and then we capture all the emails on Ceipal system. So that way we are helping them to quickly bring the leads and then communicate with them effectively through Ceipal system. That's as a provider, so that's what we do. We help the customers in that way.
Okay, great. So the next question is, what if I have a certain site that I want to integrate with and you guys don't yet offer that integration? So do I have to pay extra? Can I request it from your development team? And the second part of the question is, how fast is the turnaround? So if I have a specific software I want to integrate with, how long in general do I have to wait before Ceipal can integrate with them if they don't already?
We don't charge anything for the integration, except if the third party is charging something. So that has the charges has to be something that the Ceipal customer will be paying for them. But for integrating with Ceipal, we don't charge anything. It's a free of cost. So that depends on a lot of things, the timelines and all. So if the third party has an API, so we will be able to quickly integrate that. The response times are pretty quick in terms of the integration. So we have a dedicated development team for the integrations. So far we have integrated with almost like 75 to 80 different third-party applications, be it as a job board, SMS, VoIP, lead gen platforms. So we have quite extensive experience with that. The response time is really fast, and we don't charge anything for that.
Okay, great. And the final question today is that if I were to come on with Ceipal, then what's the customer support and the customer service like? So if I'm having trouble with the CRM capability or I need help setting up certain templates, how does Ceipal respond to individual customer requests?
So Ceipal customer support is one of the best, I would say. In Ceipal, keep it aside, the integrations of the product and the pricing and everything. If you keep it aside, customer support is one of the core areas of Ceipal, meaning we support our customers by assigning a dedicated account manager. And then we have a great support team that they can constantly monitor the emails or the requests or the tickets from the customers and respond them. So they can directly call the support reps. We don't have a kind of 800 number and wait for a few minutes online, a few hours to see a response from our support. So rather, they can directly call our support reps, and then we have an escalation path if there is anything delayed. So we provide the customer support in these many ways, either tickets, phone calls, scheduling trainings and everything.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so that concludes our question and answers session for today. Amar, thank you for that product demo. Larry and Liz, once again, thank you for your wonderful insights on branding during this difficult time. To all of our attendees, thank you. We're so happy you joined us. We hope you tune in next week for the next webinar in our series. As previously mentioned, an email will go out with the presentation material, the recording, and an industry survey. We encourage all of you to fill out the survey for a chance to win an Apple iPad. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the Ceipal team. So once again, on behalf of all of us, thank you for joining us today and stay safe.